And let's think of the welfare of all living beings, even though it seems like quite an enormous enterprise to care for them or to cherish them. Still, let's stretch our mind and try and think like that. Put a new idea into our mind instead of just saying, oh, it sounds too hard, bye-bye. I really let that sink in. That maybe I can be of great benefit to innumerable sentient beings. And if I can, I want to. And the best way to do that is to eliminate all the hindrances from my own side, to develop all my capabilities. And that means becoming a fully awakened Buddha. And so we aim for that. So we were talking yesterday about verse 77. Okay. All aspects, whether birth, maintenance, or growth of the wish-fulfilling tree of the awakened mind, depend upon the firm root of compassion, which is what integrates the 7 causes and effects. And so we started talking about the 7 causes and effects, that they're founded on equanimity, freeing ourselves from attachment to friends, anger and aversion to people we find distasteful, and apathy towards everybody else. And then we started talking about the 7 points of cause and effect. So there are 6 causes and 1 effect. So yesterday we talked about the causes of seeing sentient beings as our mother. Okay, that all of them have been our mother at some time in a previous life. And second, thinking of them as having been kind when they've been our mother or father. We have to be gender neutral here too, so the kindness of our fathers. So really, using our family of this life to think of the kindness, but then not using that to get attached to the family of this life, because we've meditated on equanimity, and so we know that, there's no reason to cherish some beings more than others. Okay? So while we do have a special karma with our parents of this life, because they gave us this body, still in the long picture, that doesn't mean that we get attached to the parents of this life, because in a previous life and in a future life, they haven't been our parents. Okay? Maybe they've been our enemy. Maybe they've been our pet raccoon. We don't know. Yeah? Okay? So, thinking of the kindness but not getting attached. And then how that gives rise to the 3rd cause, which is a wish to repay the kindness. So that seems to be kind of a automatic human instinct. When we receive kindness, we want to give kindness. Yeah? And so, we want to repay the kindness of all these living beings who have been our parents. So they say Lama Atisha, whenever he was out with the donkeys or whoever, he would always address them as mother. Yeah. So it's kind of sweet, isn't it, to train your mind to think of sentient beings having, nurtured you and taken care of you and everything as your mother. I was thinking about it this morning in terms of some people that I sometimes feel uncomfortable around, and then, and that's only if I see them as being who they are this life. Then, the interaction this life has been, I kind of don't like them or whatever. But if I see them as not always being who they are in this lifetime, and see them as, my mother from a previous life, and approach them as my mother from a previous life, then this feeling of discomfort or being ill at ease, it's gone. It's completely gone, and instead there's a feeling of familiarity, there's a feeling of kindness towards somebody. In other words, my mind is more open. I'm willing to give somebody else the benefit of the doubt instead of believing all my uncomfortable feelings and the stories I make up about them. And of course we all know that if we approach a person in a suspicious manner, they're going to pick up on that and do suspicious things. If we approach people in a kind manner, they're going to pick up on that and be a lot nicer to us. Yeah. I mean, this is what our parents taught us when we were going to kindergarten, and it's true. Yeah. Okay. So then the fourth of these 7 steps is called Heartwarming Love. So as I was saying yesterday, this is really seeing sentient beings in beauty, seeing them as beings that we can have affection for. Yeah. So seeing them in a heartwarming way. So that really means getting out of the habit that we have. We have all sorts of other habits. Some of us, we always approach people in a very suspicious way. Like, what are they going to try and get out of me? And this may have been because of previous conditioning we received when we were younger. But that doesn't mean that it's either beneficial or realistic to approach new people in that way. Yeah, it's just a habit we have. Yeah, or sometimes we approach people with, what can I get out of them? Yeah, looking for, how to get money or praise or affection or, whatever we want out of them. Right. And again, it's not a very nice way to approach other people. It really influences our relationships with them, but we may have a habit in approaching people that way. Okay? So it's good to look inside and see what kind of habits we have. What's the lens that colors how we usually approach people. Mm-hmm. Could be the lens of, are they going to like me? Yeah. Or am I going to like them? Am I going to fit in with these people? So we approach them with, discomfort, because maybe I'm not going to fit in. Or we approach them with ill at ease, because maybe they're not going to like me. Or maybe we approach them with conniving. Oh, who do they know that's important, who can benefit me? Yeah. Or maybe we approach them with fear of not being appreciated. Yeah. Oh, they're gonna, I have to really make myself look good to these people, otherwise nobody's gonna think I'm worthwhile. Okay. So we can approach people with all sorts of, just habitual trips. And it really impairs having a very direct, honest relationship with them. Yeah. Lots of times we approach people we're sexually attracted to with, how can I get them to like me? Yeah. Kind of, who even knows who they are, but automatically we want them to like us. So we approach people as sex objects. Or maybe as love objects. We need love, not sex. Who can I get to love me? Or who can I get to depend on me because I need to feel needed? Because if I'm not needed, I don't know who I am. Okay? So lots of ways that we approach people. But they're all involved in some kind of self-referential way, aren't they? And our way of approaching them really colors our perception of them, and it influences how they relate to us. Yeah? So here, in the meditation on heartwarming love, what we're doing is training our mind to approach them as, here's a beautiful sentient being who's been kind to me in previous lives, especially when they were my parents. So it's not like they're unknown strangers that I have to be suspicious of. They, once gave birth to me, and they nurtured me, and they took care of me, and, fed me in the middle of the night, and gave me medicine when I was sick and crying, and toilet trained me, and sent me off to school, and did all those just daily life actions that parents do for kids that, are really, how we grow. And if our parents couldn't do it directly, they found another adult or another group of adults who could take care of us because they cared about us. Okay? Like I said yesterday, they didn't put us in a dumpster. They cared about us. So they found somebody to take care of us if they couldn't. Okay? So to really see sentient beings as kind and train the mind. So whenever we see anybody, there's this feeling of, kind of closeness or familiarity or understanding or appreciation for what they've given to us in the past. Okay? Sometimes our mind goes, appreciation for what they've done for me in the past, but they've also killed me, and they've abused me, and they've criticized me, and they've taken my partner, and they've lied behind my back, and they've, gossiped about me, and they ruined my reputation, and they also did all these other horrible things. Does looking at others make you feel happy? I don't think so. Okay. So it doesn't mean that we're totally naive and we don't, use our wits around people. Of course we use our wits. But, we try and just start out with a clean slate, with as little junk from our side coloring that person, being projected upon that person. So seeing them in a heartwarming way. Mm-hmm. And then from that comes compassion, which is the fifth link. Okay? So compassion is the wish for someone to be free of suffering and its causes. Love is the wish for them to have happiness and its causes. And while in the 7 points of cause and effect, heartwarming love always comes before compassion. When we're just talking about love in general and compassion, there isn't a set order. You can generate love first and then compassion, or you can have compassion and then love. Because the two kind of come together, don't they? You can't wish them to be free of suffering unless you wish them to be happy, and you can't wish them to be happy unless you wish them to be free of suffering. They kind of, doesn't matter which order you meditate on them. Yeah? Okay, so, and then the 6th one is the great resolve, which it goes beyond compassion to the resolve to really get involved in the lives of sentient beings and really do something for their benefit. Okay? So it's not just, oh, I feel so much compassion for them. It's, I'm going to go out and do something. Yeah, I'm not sitting by the bylines. I'm going to go out and do something. If I want them to be free of suffering, I'm going to do something to help them to be free of suffering. Okay? And so that resolve to really get involved and do something then leads to the one result, which is bodhicitta. Okay? So bodhicitta is a primary mind that has two aspirations. One aspiration is the aspiration to benefit others, and the second aspiration is the aspiration to attain full enlightenment in order to do that. Okay, so actually the aspiration to benefit others is the causal aspiration, and then bodhicitta itself focuses on enlightenment, you know, because we aspire to attain enlightenment as a result of wanting to be of great benefit to living beings. Okay, so bodhicitta is for all living beings. It's not everybody except us. Just as love and compassion aren't for everybody except us. They're for everybody. Okay, including us. So we're not special. We shouldn't leave ourselves out. Okay? We like to think everybody else is lovable, but I hate myself. No, that doesn't work here. Okay? So the factor of compassion is what links the first four causes of seeing sentient beings as our mother, their kindness, repaying their kindness and heartwarming love. It's what links those to the great resolve and actually to bodhicitta. And so that's why in the verse, it's the last line of verse 77, it says compassion, which is what integrates the seven causes and effects. Okay? So that's what it means there. It's the one that integrates them, that links them together, how the initial ones lead to bodhicitta. Okay? So in that line, talking about compassion and how to meditate on compassion, I thought I would read a little bit from Kamalasila's Middle Stages of Meditation. This is one of the texts that His Holiness Dalai Lama taught in D.C. For those of you who were there this summer, he taught this text. So I thought to go through a little bit of what it says there about compassion and how to meditate on compassion. Okay? So first, Kamalashila has us meditating on the disadvantages of cyclic existence. Okay, because they often say that to develop compassion, or to develop bodhicitta, either one, there's two chief meditations. One is to see the dukkha, the unsatisfactory conditions or the suffering of cyclic existence, and second, to the dukkha of sentient beings, and then second, the kindness of sentient beings, so that we can see them as lovable. So where we're starting here is just after he got done with a lengthy section talking about all the different experiences that sentient beings go through in the 6 realms. You know, if you're born in the hell realm, what you experience, and the hungry ghosts, and all these different realms, what you experience, and then also the 3 kinds of dukkha: the dukkha of pain, the dukkha of change, and pervasive compounded dukkha, or pervasive conditioned dukkha. Okay? And so when we really see all these disadvantages of cyclic existence, first in terms of ourselves, but then in terms of others, okay, then we renounce our own suffering, and we want to renounce others' suffering too. And so that is what leads us to compassion. Okay? So that's why this section starts out Therefore, recognize that all living beings dwell in the midst of a great conflagration of misery. Okay? So we've done those meditations about, the first two noble truths and all that thing. And we see that this is actually the situation that sentient beings live in. Everybody. Rich, poor, famous, infamous, it doesn't matter. Okay. So then Kamalasila continues saying, think that all other beings are just like yourself in not wishing to suffer. Okay. So that's a very important point. Yeah, they're just like me. They don't want to suffer. They want to have happiness. Okay. Now we know that intellectually, but somehow when we meet other living beings, that we don't really get it, that they don't want to suffer and that they want happiness. We don't really get it. We kind of feel, I'm the one who doesn't want suffering and who wants happiness. And I'm the one who deserves happiness more than other people. And my happiness is more important. And everybody should, serve the purpose of my happiness and stop making me suffer. Okay. But, he's saying, no, realize everybody's exactly like us. There's actually no difference. Yeah? So sit in the garden, and watch the grasshoppers. Yeah, or watch the bees and sit there and, they want to have happiness and not suffering. Or watch the kitties. Or, watch the 6 o'clock news, not while you're here, but other times. And just watch the 6 o'clock news through the eyes of all these people just want happiness and not suffering. That's the whole meaning of the news. They all want happiness and they don't want suffering. And in their ignorance, it's as if they are running towards suffering because they're creating so much of the cause for suffering. That's really evident. But us, we don't create the cause of suffering. Yeah, we just correct others who are wrong for their own benefit. Right? Yeah? So if somebody's doing something wrong, we gossip about them behind their back and tear their reputation to shreds. But it's for the protection of the people who are good and, to somehow improve this person who is so lousy. But, we're not creating negative karma of creating disharmony. It's interesting how we frame our own actions, isn't it? Yeah. We're always the sweet, innocent, benevolent ones. Right? Yeah. I had a friend who would teach conflict mediation. And I went to some of his workshops, and he would have people, do different exercises. And I remember one exercise. There's an exercise about, how willing you are to engage with the other person to resolve a conflict. And he had people do an exercise and tabulated the results. And, he said, it's so interesting because it's always the people who really want to resolve the conflict who come to my workshops. And the people who are very obstinate and don't communicate well are the ones who don't come to my workshops. Yeah, so I have the same thing, I have all the people who are so good-natured, who, if they have to, do something for somebody's benefit, like, tell them off or criticize them, it's always for somebody else's benefit. But none of the people who create negative karma come to Dharma classes. It's always other people who do. Right? Okay, so really seeing that, everybody's just like me, wanting happiness, not wanting suffering. That everything everybody does is basically saying, I want happiness and not suffering. So if we can look at the people who are doing things that we don't like and say, and think to ourselves, what they're saying right now is, I'm unhappy, I'm suffering. That's the meaning of what they're saying and doing. Okay? So all of the Republicans in Congress and all of the Democrats, we have to be fair, you know, what they're all saying is, I want to be happy and not suffer. What do you think? Possible? Impossible? Yeah? So whichever side you took on the recent budget deficit thing, seeing the other side as totally uncooperative and selfish and unresponsive, you know, can you see them as basically saying, I'm unhappy and I want to be happy and not suffer? A little bit stretching, isn't it? There's a few Republicans out there. Some of you may be saying there's a few Democrats out there. But, you know, that's basically what they're saying. Okay? So, okay, think that all other beings are just like yourself in not wishing to suffer. Make their misery your own with the thought, oh, since these beings I cherish are suffering, how can I set them free? Okay? So in the same way that, you know, when we really care about somebody, if we see them in pain or we see them in difficulties, you know, we just respond with, you know, these are beings who are suffering. How can I help? How can I set them free? When we've trained ourselves to see everybody as worthy of affection, as kind, then we can think that way towards everybody. How can I set them free? Yeah, they're miserable. How can I set them free? At all times, both while you engage in meditative concentration and in all your ordinary behavior, you should meditate on compassion that wishes to free all sentient beings from suffering. Okay? So not only when we're on the cushion, but also when we're walking around. Yeah? Because all the time when we're walking around, we're in contact with sentient beings. Even you go live in a cave somewhere, you know, there may not be people around, but there's tons of sentient beings around. Okay? And there's probably going to be a few people you rely on, otherwise you're not going to have food. And you won't have a sleeping bag, and you won't have clothes, you know, or anything else you know, your iPad that you're taking to your cave, you know, along with your iPod and your, you know, your telephone and your, all these things. Yeah. Renunciation is one thing. Giving up reality in a 2x4 screen, that requires incredible renunciation. Yeah. I was just reading one article that it was saying that people feel, you know, when they forget their iPod or their telephone, you know, their BlackBerry, they feel so lonely and out of touch, you know, they really do. And that, and somebody did, you know, some scientists did some examining, and your iPod makes light up the same area of your brain as love. Yeah, dopamine, you know. Isn't that amazing? So I think advertisements are going to be doing a lot of study now of how our brains work so that they can, you know, play on us and get us to buy more things. Yeah. So you love your iPod. And you miss it when it's not there. Okay. How did I get on that topic? What? Oh yes, going off in your cave. Yeah. I can renounce everything, but you know, that. Reality in a 2x4 inch. Okay. I don't have one, and I don't want one. Okay, so when you're in meditative concentration, when your ordinary behavior, consistently meditate on compassion. So this is a very good meditation to do when you're stuck in traffic jams. Yeah, look at everybody else around you who's stuck. When you're on a bus or a subway, look at everybody else. When you're in an airport, yeah, standing in line through to go through security, or walking, somewhere, or sitting on one of those flights that is 110% full. Yeah. And there's no room, yeah, then to contemplate that. Okay, so there's many, areas in our life and places where we can put this into practice. Okay, in the beginning, you should meditate by recognizing that those whom you cherish are experiencing the various sufferings that have been mentioned. Okay, so we start out when we meditate on compassion with thinking about the beings that we cherish. Okay, now the Theravada tradition says here that instead of thinking of the people that you're really attached to and cherish, think of somebody that you have respect for and cherish. Don't think of the people you have attachment to first, okay? Think of the people that you respect and cherish because, you have respect for them. And then, think of the difficulties in their life. And remember, when you think of their difficulties and want them to be free, you're not just thinking of the dukkha of pain. You're not just thinking of what ordinary beings consider suffering, physical and mental suffering. We also think of what ordinary beings consider happiness. Okay, because that happiness is unsatisfactory and it doesn't last. And also think of them being stuck in samsara under the influence of afflictions and karma, and prone to all the miseries of cyclic existence. Okay, so you think of the situation of these people whom you respect and are fond of. Yeah, and in that way arises the wish to free them of their suffering, which is compassion. Okay, so you start with those people. Then afterwards, you can go to people that you're attached to. Although sometimes afterwards it's better to go to people that you feel neutral towards. Okay, because you don't want to do this meditation and wind up favoring some group and ignoring another group. Okay? So, in the beginning, you should meditate by recognizing that those whom you cherish are experiencing the various sufferings that have been mentioned. Then you should meditate on neutral beings. Okay? So all the strangers, the people at the gas station, the clerk at the supermarket, the people who fill your orders when you order things online, the people who book your airline tickets, the people who answer your complaint calls. Yeah, the people at various government agencies who we have to contact for this, that, or the other thing. So all these strangers, yeah. So we meditate in that way towards them, seeing their dukkha and then wishing them to be free of it. Then seeing that there is no difference between them, the neutral beings, and the cherished beings due to the equality of sentient beings, you should think all sentient beings are my friends. Okay? So you've meditated on compassion for the people you're fond of. And then you meditate on compassion for the neutral beings. And then you think, but wait a minute, they're all the same. There's no reason for me to discriminate and be fond of one group and apathetic towards the other group. So then you think they're all my friends. Yeah. And they have been in our previous lives. They have all been our friends. Okay. Once you experience compassion towards neutral beings equal to that which you feel towards those who you cherish, then you should meditate on compassion for all sentient beings in the universe. Okay? So, you go from the ones you cherish to the neutral ones, then to everybody. Now, of course, included in everybody are all the people that you can't stand, and all the ones that you feel threaten you, who have harmed you and betrayed you, or will threaten and harm you and betray you. Yeah. So we have to meditate on compassion for all those beings too. Okay, quite important. The people who humiliate you, the people who take advantage of you, yeah, the people who have harmed you or harmed your dear ones, meditate on compassion for all those beings. Okay? Because if you don't, then the only other choice you have is to sit and have resentment and bitterness and anger towards them and hold a grudge. Okay? And how do you feel when you're filled with bitterness and anger and resentment and vengeance? We feel awful. Yeah? And it also doesn't do anybody any good. Like I was saying yesterday, about the attorney who's never seen any family of a victim satisfied after the perpetrator of a capital crime has been executed. Yeah. So even if we were to get our revenge for on somebody else, how is that going to eliminate our own suffering? It can't undo the past. And if we're sitting there wanting to cause somebody harm and rejoicing in other people's suffering, then I think we lose our own self-respect. Yeah? Because at one point we have to ask ourselves, what kind of person am I that I'm rejoicing at others' suffering? Yeah? So we lose our own self-respect. That doesn't make us feel very good either. Okay? So learning to forgive is extremely important for our own well-being as well as for others. In fact, we're the main ones who benefit when we forgive. Yeah? The other person often doesn't even know we've forgiven them. Yeah? But we're the main one who benefits, because then our own heart can be peaceful. We can put down the past instead of carrying the past around like, a cement truck. Yeah. Do you know people, maybe some family members or somebody who are very bitter about their lives? Yeah. Somebody you know come to mind who's just so bitter? Yeah. Then what kind of life does that person live when they live in bitterness all the time. It's horrible, isn't it? Yeah. And think, wouldn't it be wonderful if they could let go of all that anger and resentment? You know, all that anger and resentment, all that hurt that they're sitting in, dwelling in, that happened 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago. Wouldn't it be nice if they could put it down and smile?
Drop the rock.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, and then you imagine them putting it all down and how happy they are. And then think, well, what about me and the things I'm bitter about and the resentment I hold? And wouldn't it be wonderful if I could put that down and imagine yourself having that same lightness of heart that you just imagine that relative or whoever it was have? Yeah? Okay. So these are meditations that are very powerful if you sit and work on them. Yeah? And you can see that, you know, how that really progressing on the path, it isn't just an issue of, you know, learning that there's 22 types of bodhicitta and what kind you find on which stage of the path. You can see that, you know, really cultivating this means doing a lot of reformatting in here. Yeah? And letting go of so many misconceptions and assumptions and habits that we've cultivated for a long time and sometimes we aren't even aware of, even though they govern our life. Okay? So that's why they say that emptiness is difficult to understand. Takes you a long time to understand it, but once you've understood it, it doesn't take so long to comparatively to realize it. Bodhicitta is easy to understand, but it takes a really long time to cultivate it. Yeah, because we have to do all this very deep inner work, you know, which completely goes against our self-centered thought. Okay. When you naturally, okay, so you've just meditated on compassion for all sentient beings in the universe. When you naturally and spontaneously experience compassion towards all sentient beings, compassion that makes you wish to free them from their misery, as if you were the loving mother of a suffering small child, then compassion is perfected, and it is called great compassion. Okay, so we've cultivated great compassion when naturally and spontaneously we experience compassion towards all sentient beings in the universe. And this compassion is such that we are like a mother looking at a suffering small child, wanting to free them of their suffering. Okay? So, you know, think of, if you have kids, think of a suffering small child who is unhappy and wailing, you know. Or think of your pet who's in excruciating pain. Or think of, you know, some small helpless being that you have affection for, you know, and how strong that wish is of, you know, I'd do anything in the world to stop this suffering that they're experiencing. You know, I would do anything. So to have that kind of mind towards all sentient beings, yeah, then that's great compassion. Hmm? Yeah.
Do you mind if I turn the light on?
Oh, yeah, it's okay. Okay. And then Kamala Sila continues. You meditate on love with the wish that sentient beings have happiness. You first meditate like this towards cherished persons, then towards neutral persons, and finally towards enemies. Okay? The same thing. And here again, when you're meditating on love, try and do it towards somebody that you respect, not somebody you're attached to. As the first person, as the first example. Okay? Having conditioned yourself to be compassionate, you naturally will gradually develop the wish to free all sentient beings. Okay? I think maybe they're bringing her luggage. Danny just arrived from Germany last night. She just arrived from... Oh, okay. Having conditioned yourself to be compassionate, you naturally will gradually develop the wish to free all sentient beings. Okay, so there he's saying if you want to meditate on love first, wishing everybody towards happiness, have happiness, and then and then meditate on compassion, then naturally, gradually, as a result of doing that, then you will develop the wish to free all sentient beings. Okay?
Quoting out of His Holiness's teachings?
No.
Third day or from the book?
From the book.
So I never,
Yeah,
okay.
from Kamala Sila.
A glitch on day.
Okay? And then, Kamala Sila, I'll just read a little bit more. He talks about Bodhichitta, because we've just talked about compassion and how compassion links in the 7 from the 4 causes to Bodhichitta. Okay, so Kamala Sila says, then, having conditioned yourself to great compassion, you should meditate on the mind of awakening. In other words, on Bodhichitta, that primary mind with 2 aspirations, one to benefit sentient beings, and the second to attain enlightenment in order to do so. So there's 2 kinds of bodhicitta. One's called conventional and one's called ultimate. Okay? And the conventional bodhicitta is the product of the initial thought that wishes for true, perfect awakening. Okay? So out of compassion, you vow to emancipate all sentient beings and think, I must become a Buddha in order to benefit sentient beings. Okay, so that's the conventional bodhicitta. And he says you should also generate this mind by taking the Bodhisattva vow before a master who holds the Bodhisattva precepts, following the ritual taught in the conduct chapter of the Bodhisattva Vow. Okay, so in the chapter on ethical conduct in Asanga's text, the grounds of a bodhisattva, there's one version of the bodhisattva precepts. Okay, so what it's saying here is you meditate on compassion, then you generate conventional bodhicitta. Okay, and when you start out with conventional bodhicitta, it's more aspiring bodhicitta. You aspire to become a Buddha, but you're not yet ready to do what it takes to become a Buddha. But then after a while, through aspiring, then you have more courage, and then you're willing to actually take the Bodhisattva vow, which is engaging bodhicitta, where you're really engaged in the practice of becoming a Buddha, creating all the causes to become a Buddha. Okay? Huh? I'm getting to ultimate. No. So there's conventional and ultimate. Conventional is the wish to attain enlightenment for the benefit of sentient beings. It has 2 branches, aspiring bodhicitta and engaging bodhicitta. So if you look in the red prayer book, okay, page 64. Okay, Pearl of Wisdom, page 64, it talks about aspiring and engaging bodhicitta. Okay, And when you, there's 8 precepts of aspiring bodhicitta, and that's when you really have regard for bodhicitta. You aspire to, to attain enlightenment for the benefit of others. Okay? And then when you actually engage in creating the causes to become a Buddha, okay, then your bodhicitta is stronger, it's more forceful. You're not just like, they give the analogy of, like, you could say, gee, it'd be so nice to go to Dharamsala and attend His Holiness's teachings. It'd be so nice to go. It'd be so nice to, go to Sravasti Abbey for retreat. There's lots of people who say, oh, it'd be so nice to go. So that's like aspiring bodhicitta. But then, getting your ticket and going, or filling out your application form and going, that's a whole different kind of engagement, and commitment. So that's the engaged bodhicitta, because then you're not just sitting saying, oh, it's going to be so wonderful, I aspire. You say, I'm doing it. Okay. So then when you do that with the engaging bodhicitta, then you take the Bodhisattva Vow. So on page 66 in the middle, it starts with the Bodhisattva Vow. So there's 18 root Bodhisattva vows, and then there's 46 auxiliary ones. Okay, so they're all listed in the Pearl of Wisdom there. Okay, the red prayer book. Okay, so that's all conventional bodhicitta. Okay. Once you produce the conventional mind of awakening, you should strive to generate the ultimate mind of awakening, the ultimate bodhicitta. Okay? So the ultimate bodhicitta is transcendent, free from all conceptual elaborations, radiant, the ultimate cognitive sphere, unmoving, unwavering, like the steady flame of an oil lamp in a windless place. Okay? So the ultimate bodhicitta is the wisdom that realizes the ultimate nature, the emptiness of inherent existence. Okay? So it realizes how things actually exist, and so that mind is free from conceptual elaboration, which means it's not only free of any conception, but it's free of the grasping at true existence. Okay? And that mind of ultimate bodhicitta, you want to combine it with very profound concentration so that it becomes unmoving, completely stable, like the steady flame of the oil lamp in a windless place. Okay? So we not only need the wisdom, but we need the deep concentration combined with the wisdom, so that that mind, stays incredibly focused on the direct perception of the nature of phenomena. Okay, so that's ultimate bodhicitta. So we generate conventional bodhicitta as an aspiration to become enlightened. And then we try and gain the realization of ultimate bodhicitta, of, try to generate the wisdom realizing emptiness, because it's that wisdom that actually clears away all the defilements from our mind stream in such a way that they can never arise again. Okay? So while compassion and bodhicitta and love and all these are like wonderful meditations, and they can really subdue a lot of our afflictions, the only thing that gets rid of the afflictions from the root so that they can never come again is the wisdom realizing the ultimate nature. That's the only thing that can do it. So if we are really serious about becoming Buddhas, after aspiring to become a Buddha, generating the conventional bodhicitta, then we apply our mind to try and understand and realize ultimate bodhicitta. Okay? In other words, we study the teachings about emptiness, we think about them, we discuss them, we meditate on them, put them into practice. Okay. So questions? Yeah.
This is sort of going back a bit.
Mhm.
When you said it was good to contemplate this in traffic jams and airports and
Mhm.
things like that, were you talking about the whole compassion meditation
Mhm.
or something more specific?
Okay. So when I was talking about, you know, practicing in traffic jams and, you know, crowded buses and, you know, places, every airport, I'm talking about all the bodhicitta meditations. Equanimity, seeing sentient beings as our mothers, seeing them as kind, you know, heartwarming love, regular love, compassion, all of them. Yeah, because you really want to spread them out towards all living beings. And it's quite, you know, it really means something to us. Like, you know, when you're walking down, I say it in terms of airports because I'm in an airport so often. You know, you're walking there and you're seeing all these people doing all these different things in an airport, and you think, you know, the purpose of my life is to benefit them. You know, the purpose of my life is to attain enlightenment so I can be of the greatest benefit to them. You know, or these are the sentient beings on whose behalf I'm trying to, you know, attain enlightenment. Yeah, so the wailing baby on the transoceanic flight. Yeah, the teenagers who are screaming at the top of their lungs, or, you know, 10-year-olds. I was on one flight. It wasn't with teenagers. They must have been like 9 or 10 years old, 2 kids, just, you know, out of control. And to think, you know, it's due to, you know, it's on their account that I'm trying to generate these realizations. Yeah.
If you were awakened, you'd know how to calm him down.
Okay, yeah.
So this whole idea about thinking of those you care for first, and then thinking of strangers, and then putting the difficult ones in a category with everybody else seems to be quite a shift in, because the other ones I always felt that when I did this I could kind of sort of open my heart gradually first with the people that I cared for and wishing them well and watching people their suffering, and then the strangers and thinking about people in town and things like that. Then it was like almost my heart was ready to deal with the ones that have difficulty.
Right.
This one, putting them in this final category, then extended to all beings in the universe. It takes the difficult people and sort of amorphizes them into something not there.
Okay.
I mean,
So by just saying all sentient beings in the universe, it sounds like, well, there's just this amorphous blob. It doesn't mean an amorphous blob. It's taking each single sentient beings individually. Okay? So it's not just, you know, it's not just you don't meditate on your friends as a blob, do you? An amorphous blob, when you cultivate compassion towards them. You think of individuals, you know, and with strangers, yeah, you think of individuals. And so it is when they say the rest, it means the enemies and everybody else. Because actually, you know, if you've done the ones you're close to, and